Days ahead of Christmas, England is easing self-isolation rules. 10 days self-isolation for people who test positive for COVID-19 are being reduced to 7 days if 2 negative test results come through on day 6 and day 7. This applies to everyone, regardless of vaccination status. It also applies to anyone currently in isolation. Officials believe the new rules will enable more people to spend the holidays with their family and ease staffing shortages for businesses and public services. Meanwhile, the European Union is mulling the possibility of tweaking the COVID-19 vaccine to increase the resilience against the latest Omicron variant. The head of the European Medicines Agency believes it's too soon to know whether an Omicron-specific vaccine is needed. The European Medicines Agency chief Emma Cook has confirmed the organisation is collecting more data on vaccine efficiency. More data is also awaited on the variant's transmissibility and the severity of the disease caused by it. It comes as a series of European governments ramp up measures to slow the spread of Omicron. Our correspondent Trent Murray joins us now live from Berlin. Trent, what exactly are the new measures that the German government is bringing in?
Well, Ollie, if you're planning a big New Year's Eve party, now is the time to cancel it, according to the new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. These are new measures which he and the state leaders have announced in the past 24 hours, which essentially cap the number of people that can gather at 10 if they are vaccinated. So that essentially eliminates the ability to have big neighbourhood street parties for New Year's Eve or those large public gatherings around fireworks. They are all now being cancelled across Germany because of these new restrictions. The number of people that can gather, though, does lessen significantly if an unvaccinated person is present. If that happens, then only 2 households are allowed to meet. Of course, the main question that many people are asking is how exactly you police that. The responsibility, it seems, is on the hosts or homeowners to make sure that anybody visiting them has got their vaccine pass on them and that they don't breach the rules over the holiday season.
And how, well, you touched on it there, but how has all of that been going down with people in Berlin where you are, that you've been speaking to?
Yeah, so look, I think that there's a real understanding that in parts of the German population there is an element of fatigue and frustration setting in at many of these long-running restrictions. Certainly when Chancellor Scholz addressed the country last night following those talks with regional leaders, you could sense that he wasn't just announcing the new restrictions and asking people to follow them, but also pleading for patience, because many of these rules, because of the pandemic, have been around now for many months, very little let up in many ways. We've also seen in the past couple of days some pretty big protests across the country. Around 50,000 people took to the streets on Monday night in 20 separate German cities. So it's really against that backdrop that the German government is just trying to strike that balance between getting people to comply with the new rules and also understanding that there is just an element of fatigue and frustration in some parts of the community.
And how importantly does the German government view the role of the role of booster jabs here? The booster jab rate is running quite quickly in Germany compared to some other European Union countries.
It really remains priority number one, it seems, certainly for the new health minister. We are just hearing repeated messaging at all levels of government for people to get their booster jabs, and they are really trying to make it as easy as possible, extending the opening hours of vaccine centres, opening up vaccine clinics at busy places like shopping malls and train stations. And even in the past few days, we've seen the law expanded to allow dentists and veterinarians to also administer jabs to really try and get out to as much of the population as possible. We have seen in some cases there have been very long lines at some of those vaccine centres, clearly indicating there is a pretty big desire on the part of the population to get their jabs. But they say that that really is the key to trying to hold back this big wave of Omicron, which is expected to sweep across Europe. So even over Christmas Day and possibly New Year's Day, there are calls calls to keep those vaccine centres open to ensure people do continue to come in.